Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see everybody this morning. If you would, open your Bibles, please, to Matthew chapter 6. We finished up chapter 5 in class and moving along through the life of Christ and specifically the Sermon on the Mount. We come to what might be referred to as another section of the sermon. Do you ever like people to tell you did a good job? We kind of like to hear that, especially when we put a lot of effort into something. We like to hear that we did good in whatever area it is. We like to be praised. It's kind of just part of our nature that we like to be praised. Studies have been done that confirm this. They show that people respond favorably to compliments. When our bosses compliment us, our work improves. When our spouses compliment us, everything improves. Our desire to be praised shows that we do, in fact, respond well to compliments. We like them. And oftentimes we will act in a particular way to receive them. It's not necessarily a good thing. In 2 Timothy 4 and verse 2, Paul instructs Timothy to preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. Nowhere is this better exemplified and demonstrated for us than in the teaching of Jesus himself. He reproved, he rebuked, and he exhorted, and he did it with complete patience. Some versions say with all long suffering. In chapter 5, Jesus has reproved the Pharisaical misinterpretation and incorrect teaching of the law. And he's contrasted that with the correct interpretation and correct teaching of the law and how we should really, from the heart, obey the word of the Lord. He was teaching in chapter 5 to correct thinking. And now, as he comes into what we have as chapter 6, he begins a section to teach to correct practicing. And this transition comes with a warning. Verse 1, Matthew 6, 1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Now the word we have here as beware suggests to take hold, to pay attention to, and to be on guard. Jesus was warning his disciples to be on guard against developing the same attitude towards their acts of righteousness that the scribes and Pharisees had concerning their acts of righteousness. Now, this is a general warning to this entire section, Matthew 6, 2 through 18. One is an introductory transition warning for all that Jesus is about to say through verse 18. So he gives the warning and then he gives illustrations in a classic Jewish style of 3. The first of which is giving. And in all of these examples and illustrations, Jesus starts with the negative and moves to the positive. Verse 2. So when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have their reward. And the first thing we notice from this illustration, from this teaching. It's found at the very beginning, and it's found at the very beginning of all of his illustrations. You may have, in your specific translation you're using, you may have something that says either therefore, so, or when you give to the needy, or it may be alms. What does that tell us? It tells us that these are things that Jesus expects his followers to be doing. The Old Testament taught that giving to the poor was a sacred duty. It was part of the law, Deuteronomy 15 and 11. But some Jews have come to make sort of a spectacle, sort of a theatrical production of their giving. And Jesus calls the people who do that hypocrites. Now, hypocrite for us is a transliteration of a Greek word, hypokritos. It means, in its base meaning, refers to a play actor. And by this time, this term was already being used in Jewish circles of pretenders. You've seen people who've been like that. On the outside they look so good, but you know they're fake. They're pretending. It's not real. These people were carrying out external acts of righteousness that masked, even from themselves, their own inner corruption. When these hypocrites gave, they sounded the trumpet. Everybody look, I'm fixing to give. Do we take that literally? Do we conclude that these righteous Jews literally sounded a trumpet when they were about to give to the poor? Probably not. Now, at certain times in the temple, the trumpet was blown and alms were collected. It may be a reference to that. It may be that this is a term like our general expression of tooting your own horn, of doing something specifically in the sight of others that they'll see and take notice and praise you for it. Yeah, old Joe over here, he's a good guy, he gives, but you know, it seems that the only time he gives is when everybody's looking. Jesus said that if people give merely to be recognized, then they've received their reward, their recognition. Now this was an accounting term used in the ancient world, like at the bottom of a receipt that basically said paid in full. You've received your reward. The praise of men is all they get. The awards, the ribbons, the certificates, and the plaques that they receive, that's their reward. That's all you get. What happens to certificates and ribbons and awards and plaques? What happens to them here? Some of us may have them sitting on a shelf or on the wall or in a frame or something. What happens to those things? Go ahead, it's okay. Somebody answer. I'm literally asking a question. What happens to those things?
They collect dust.
They collect dust. I got this nice shiny trophy or this nice shiny engraved plaque, and so, every week I got to dust it off because it's getting dull. And as the years go by, it fades. This nice, bright certificate I got with this little gold seal at the bottom of it. Years later, you can barely read it because it's so faded. Things rust. Things get damaged. I put it in the box in the attic and rats have got into it. Now it's ate up. That's what happens to those things here. What happens to those things in eternity? They're nothing. If giving is for the accolades, the rewards, the praise of men, that's all you get. You received your reward. There's no reason for you to expect a heavenly reward from your Father. You ain't getting it. You done got what you wanted. We must not be like these people. We are to give with the right intention, the right motive, and the right heart. Verses 3 and 4. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And so again, we have the question, is this literal or figurative? Do we literally give in secret, so much so that my right hand doesn't know what my left hand's doing? And if so, how in the world do you do that? With your body as connected as it is, how in the world do you reach into your pocket and give to somebody as you're passing by or what have you, and the rest of your body not know it? How in the world do you do that? Well, it's probably figurative again. What Jesus is saying here is we need to be such giving people that we do it. It becomes, as we often say, as second nature. We do it without thought, without counting the intention consequences or anything. Well, there's a need. I need to fill it. Wait a minute. People are looking. I can't do it now. Now, there are times when it needs to be reserved, when it doesn't need to be out in the open, when it needs to be in secret. But that's not every single occasion. Some have taken it to mean that Christians must make certain that nobody knows about their giving. But let's look back at what Jesus said in Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light that gives light to the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. And people don't hide a light under a bowl. They put it on a lampstand, so the light shines for all the people in the house. In the same way. The same way as what? The same way as turning on the light in the house shines so that everybody in the house can see. In that same way, you should be a light for other people. Live so that they will see the good things you do and will praise your Father in heaven. How do so many people learn? How do little kids learn? By imitation, by observing, by watching you do something, and then repeating that. I have a wonderful friend back in Arkansas. Older gentleman, went to school with his youngest son. And often he prays for God to help us, for us to submit to Him in such a way that we're the Christian examples that we ought to be. Because, for the simple fact that sometimes the only Bible people read is us. The only Bible people get is seeing us putting into practice what Jesus teaches. They can't learn if you put it under a bowl. They can't learn if they don't see it. We need to give, but we need to give from the right attitude, the right heart with the right intention. The person who honestly gives to do good and to please God will do it in secret. And in secret means without attempting to attract attention like the hypocrites did. Jesus is teaching that good works should not be done for the purpose of being praised for them, They're to be done without seeking recognition. Then, if others observe them, who is praised? According to the Matthew 5:14 through 16 passage. That others may see your good works and praise your Father who is in heaven. They're not done for the praise of you. They're done for the praise of God. Others will recognize your deeds, and God will be glorified. Jesus was not condemning publicity of doing good, but he was condemning the motive of doing good for only the publicity. We should be such a giving people that we do it instinctively, without thought. We see a need, we do what we can to fill it. People who give in this manner, they will receive a far greater reward than any thanks, than any recognition that any human could give them. Far greater than the accolades of men, they will be rewarded by God their Father in heaven. Let's look at some examples of how the first century Christians took this teaching. Acts 2, 44 and 45. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. A little bit later, Acts 4, 32 through 37. Now the full number of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one said that any of the things that belonged to him was his own, but they had everything in common. And with great power the apostles were giving their testimony to the resurrection of Jesus, and great grace was upon them. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as were owners of lands and houses sold them and brought the proceeds of what was sold and laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need. Thus Joseph, who was also called by the apostles Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, a Levite, a native of Cyprus, sold a field that belonged to him and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. They just did it. There was a need. What can I do to fill it? How can I help these needy people? Well, I have excess of land. I'll sell some and I'll help fill the need. You know, oftentimes we see people who are worse off than us. We've seen the commercials for 25 cents a day. You can, There are a lot of people who are in need. And we see those images and we see them and we're moved. But it's not enough to see the need and only be moved to pity. Giving to the needy or giving alms is not just conveying sympathetic feelings here, but it's genuine actions taken to relieve those in trouble. Compassion involves more than just emotion. We must be compassionate people of motion. Another thing to think about in giving to those in need. Is that just a money issue? What are some ways we can give to help fulfill a need? There's time. Of course there's money. But there's time. There's food. There's clothing. Just having tender feelings towards someone in need ain't going to cut it. As Christians, we must seek to alleviate problems by acts of love. James 2:14 through 16. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and filled," without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is that? Now we can have compassion up one side and down the other and say, "Be ye warmed and filled" all day long. But if you don't give them stuff to warm them and fill them, what have you done? What does Paul say to the Corinthians about it? I can do all these things. I can even deliver myself up to be burned. But if I don't do that from the right motives, from the right heart, if I don't do that in love for God and my neighbor, what am I? Sounding brass, tinkling cymbal. Jesus expects his people to be doers, to be mindful of the needy around us and to seek to fill those needs. There's a difference between doing works for the glory of God that are seen and works that are done to be seen for the glory of self. In his teaching here, Jesus is condemning the attitude or the spirit that desires giving to be seen by others. To have a righteousness that exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, a true righteousness, one must have the right motives. Don't do things to be seen of others. Don't do things just to seek the praise. But let us be a giving people. Let us do things that are seen. Let us be lights that shine. Let us have a giving spirit. But in all things, whether it's giving, whatever the doing is, let all be done to the glory of God. That's the attitude that Jesus is teaching. If we give so much in secret that nobody knows about it, it's not a very bright light. But if our light shines so bright that people can only see us, oh, look how good a Christian he is. Just another block ago, he helped some other person. Just, boy, ain't he good. Give him Giver of the Week award. And next January, he's got 52 of them lined up across. That's not it. Don't take it so serious that you miss opportunities to give because we might be out in public. Let your light shine. And it shines when you do things for the glory of God, including giving to the needy. If you're subject to limitation in any way, if you have any need, we'll pray for you and we'll pray with you if you'll come as together we stand and sing.